mean, I don't. I tend to be in Chicago the same time every time that I go, usually in April or March for C2E2. But yeah, I've yet to be in Chicago when it was like comfortable. It's usually pretty cool up there. John Boo's, good to see you. Oh, well, Misa, and thank you so much for the purchase. I'm glad that you felt felt supportive enough to pick up a print, and I'm glad that I was able to sign it for you. How long ago was that, if you don't mind me asking? Because I've been doing C2E2 pretty regularly for a while now. 2 years ago, very cool. No C2E2 in the near future, though, unfortunately. But you know, for the best. While we give some people some time to join us, I'm gonna just kind of do my standard laying in of the frame, which, if you've joined me before, you know it's kind of just more of like a way I use to help guide my composition of a drawing. Kind of helps me figure out where the center is. Although for the warm-up sketches, they tend to favor the right side, since it's a headshot, three-quarter headshot. Generally kind of looks a little bit better set off to the side. John Booze, this may be an odd question, but did I ever have a DeviantArt account? I did have a DeviantArt account. In fact, I think I still technically have a DeviantArt account. Um, it might be like Yale WS or something like that. It's been a very long time since I used it. Mainly because, as like social media started to explode, there just became too many different platforms to try to kind of stay on top of all that stuff. But yeah, I mean, apparently DeviantArt's still going fairly strong, which is cool. You know, good for them. Sorry, I'm just taking a minute to try to pick out some tunes to listen to before I get started. Yo soy Infra, thank you so much. Alright, I think I'm gonna go with some sauce in today. I'm just sort of feeling in that mood. Alright, now we got a few people here. Let's go ahead and get started. Alright, we're going to start how we normally start with my circle template, just to kind of give us a nice little starting point. Let me turn down the music a little bit. We'll lay in the center line. And fun fact, I actually personally tend to think Karen is like the hardest of the characters to draw. I'm still not entirely sure why that is, but she is. You'd kind of think that if I were going to say something like that, I'd have, like pretty decent reasoning behind it. But no, it's just kind of like a gut thing. For some reason, I just find her kind of tough. I think a lot of it has to do with like how cute I want her to look. Like all the kids are pretty cute, but they're kind of like secondary cute to whatever their more primary design purposes. Whereas Karen is like kind of meant to be cute through and through. So I've kind of fiddled around with her design a little bit over the course of the series. Nothing crazy, but just kind of like adjusted a couple things here and there. Mainly with her nose. I think it works a lot better as kind of just like a little button nose. So I tend to make it a lot less... Not that the other characters' noses are particularly detailed, but I try to make Karen's literally just kind of like this very small, almost like hockey stick shape. Very kind of manga inspired. I mean, a lot of JL8 is pretty manga inspired, honestly. I actually looked at a lot of Toriyama's art when I first started doing... I mean, I'm a big fan of Toriyama's work, period, but, more traditionally just the adults, Goku, Vegeta, the main Dragon Ball characters, etc. But then I was like, well, Toriyama does this, like, really action-oriented shonen manga, but also features kids in it, with, like, Trunks and Goten. And then, obviously, the start of Dragon Ball. So I was like, well, if he can kind of do both in the same series, I think that's probably someone I want to look at and try to kind of figure out how he kind of makes those two coexist with each other. So yeah, I was looking at a lot of Toriyama's work in trying to figure out exactly how to kind of design the JL8 kids and maybe you can see it, maybe you can't. I mean, I don't think that they literally look like Toriyama drawings, because I didn't, I wasn't trying to do that, but, you might be able to kind of see some of the genetic material there. We're actually going a little bit more expressive with this Karen illustration, instead of her just looking off to the side, giving her kind of like a cheeky little pose. Just thought it'd be kind of fun to mix it up a little bit. Ever think about if I made an animated series or if someone asked me to make one? Oh yeah, I think about that all the time. There was a little bit of talk about it a couple of years ago, but it never really went anywhere. And I mean that in like the most bare minimum way possible. One of the higher ups at Machinima, because I guess they had signed some kind of a deal with Warner Brothers. They approached me to see if maybe it was something I'd be interested in, and I was like, yeah, absolutely. And they're like, cool, we'll talk to our contacts at Warner Brothers and kind of see how they feel about it. And that was pretty much the end of it. I never really heard anything beyond that. And they obviously didn't just go and make it, so, like behind my back or something. So I have to assume that it was kind of just dead on arrival. And that's fine. Also, Foxfire, I think I saw that you maybe got timed out to for link posting. I'm sorry, I'm sorry about that. I haven't really fiddled around with the Nightbot settings all that well. I'm sure that you were probably trying to link to my DeviantArt page or something. I'm sorry if you were penalized for just trying to be helpful. I need to go in on that stuff and kind of try to figure out how to get it the way I want it to be. Because you don't you don't want your viewers getting booted for trying to link to your store or something like that. That's no good. I'm going to end up mentioning this a number of times during the stream, but thank you so much to everyone who's come to hang out. I really appreciate it. Again, this is something I've talked about a lot, but this whole streaming thing is really just an effort to kind of get me motivated to come to the drawing table more regularly, because to be frank, it's something I've been struggling with during COVID. Just kind of, mental health wise and all that kind of stuff. We're already kind of isolated, not being able to see people and having to social distance and everything. And then on top of that, I'm spending, when I'm working, my studio is in the basement. I'm all alone. It's just not super appealing right now. So having people to hang out with while I work the way that I do now, with people coming and chilling in chat and all that, it makes a really big difference. So thank you very much to everybody. Although I do want to make clear that like this is also something I've been wanting to do for quite some time. Just literally the art stream thing. I've had a lot of people kind of like ask me to do it, um, and you know, like I like watching artists who I'm a fan of work. So um, it's kind of a win-win all the way around. There we go. I think that's good enough for the pencils anyway. Certainly enough information for me to start approaching the inks from. Actually, kind of speaking of manga influences, when I finally started checking out My Hero Academia, the first time I saw Uraraka, I was like, oh, Horikoshi Horikoshi figured out how to draw Karen before I did. Because the way that he draws Ochako is pretty much exactly how I wish Karen could look. Oh, I love Suyu. I love all the Class 1A kids. I do need to get caught up though. I'm a little bit behind on My Hero right now. But yeah, even Minata, like, because I think that they do a pretty good job of showing that his whole like pervy shtick is not to be celebrated. Like he's never really like gotten away with anything. You know, it's not a thing where like he does all the like really pervy stuff and like the girls are kind of mad, but everybody kind of like laughs it off. Like no one is okay with what he does. So to me, I just think that it's kind of like a general. I totally understand people not being a fan of it. I'm not saying that like you have to be a fan of it, but I think it could be way, way more problematic than it actually is as it is handled. Um, and I could be wrong, but I think I'm relatively sensitive to that kind of thing. But anyway, that's just my opinion, and obviously everybody's opinion is their own. Um, All this is to say, Mineta is not my favorite character by any stretch. I'm just saying that, among the 1A kids, like I really do enjoy all of them, even the generally considered less popular ones. Because I know plenty of people that do not like Mineta. And also, I mean, like, the shtick does get old sometimes, but kind of the same way that, like, the way that, like, Zenitsu gets kind of old in Demon Slayer. Like, I love Zenitsu. He's like my favorite non Tanjiro, non Nezuko character, but and like I really like that kind of, oh no, I'm a big coward, and then something happens that reveals that I'm a complete and utter awesome character. But like all that stuff definitely does wear on you after a while. I don't know. Minatai gets slugged pretty hard. If I remember right. I mean, none of the girl characters are holding back when they lay into him. But I could also just be misremembering. I guess it boils down to that. Like, it could certainly be handled better, but I also think it could be handled a whole lot worse. And I think generally things like that are handled a whole lot worse. So the fact that it is at least kind of going in like the right direction, I I'm willing to forgive some of it. But that's a pretty low bar to have, I guess. All right, let's do her bangs now. Those lines are pretty thick, so they may still be decently wet, so I'm going to try to kind of avoid those for now. So we'll go over here and start working on her cheeks. Oh, and I probably should mention before I forget, and I'll try to mention this a couple times. I'm not sure if I'll be streaming tomorrow, just because I need to get some work done on my car. I need to get new tires and new brake pads, and I really want to get that done as soon as possible. And just given the scheduling, I'm not sure if I'll be home in time to to get a stream in tomorrow or not. Mugen, yeah. Having a sweet car is all fun and games until you got to replace the tires. And I mean, like I'm due. It's not a thing where I drove over a spike strip and ruined them all. It's just kind of that time. The tread is worn down pretty well and all that. Same with the brake pads. This is the first time I've actually had to replace the brake pads since I bought it. Um, but yeah, it's not going to be cheap. I actually don't do burnouts. I'm a Despite the car that I drive, I try to be a fairly responsible driver. I actually get really bothered when I see. I mean, anybody, doesn't have to be people in particularly sporty vehicles, but I really do not like reckless driving. Like St. Louis has a speedway. Like if you wanna race and all that kind of stuff, just go over to Gateway, where you can do it in a controlled and safe environment, rather than doing acting like a complete idiot out on public streets. Where was that, Ashley? Was that at McCausland? Well, I'm glad that you're okay. Very sorry that happened, though. You may notice I've been sort of like going over, excuse me, going over lines multiple times. That's really just like a personal preference thing. The lines I've been laying down haven't been quite as thick as I want them to be, so it's just a matter of going back over it. Which, you know, there are a lot of ways to avoid that. Using a larger brush, just laying in a thicker line right out the gate, etc. And also some of that's just, you know, this is a warm-up and I haven't quite warmed up to my brush yet. There we go. We'll go ahead and and also, you know, we did a bunch of these warm-ups last week as well. If any of those interested anybody, they are all currently available in my online store, yalestewart.bigcartel.com. So if you're kind of interested in maybe an affordable original art option, like I said, they are now currently available, starting at, I think the cheapest was Hal at 30. I believe he's already sold, but all the rest are between $40 and $50, which is quite a bit cheaper than an original commission or a JL8 page. So, you know, just figured I'd mention it. Oh yeah, John Boo's. I used to like Cheeks' stuff. Yeah, Sean is great. He and I have actually become, we're not like close friends or anything, but he's definitely a buddy at this point. His work is incredible. Also, the nicest guy. He is such a nice dude. Karen also kind of just takes a while to draw because she's just got all this stuff on her. Whereas, you know, like Hal's just a boy's head with a Green Lantern symbol. Like, there's not really all that much to it. I'm gonna go ahead and brush ink her. I don't know what this is considered. It's not really like a brooch. I don't know, like her clasp. wasn't terrible. This little bit right here is kind of rough, but not a whole lot I can do about that without going in and actually like widening it out and everything. And that's just a little bit more than we're kind of here for today. So the way I'm kind of getting this effect is I'm kind of using like the side of the brush actually. I'm not really sure how to show it otherwise, but yeah. And, you know, that's the thing with most tools, really. There's a lot more to it than just the point or the tip, with the exception of, you know, maybe like a ballpoint pen. I mean, even a crow quill, you can kind of drag that sideways for super fine lines. Not 100% sure if that's like super good for it, but you can do it. Oh, thank you, Jamie Odell. Good to see you. Yeah, we're just doing a kind of quick warm up with Karen, kind of shake the weekend rust off before I start working on inking page 9 of my creator own project, which we actually started, I guess last Friday, but I wasn't able to finish before the stream ended. So I'm gonna try to. I'm not sure if I'll even be able to finish it today, but definitely gonna be able to make some progress on it for sure. And hopefully, this time, my nib will work. I managed to actually talk to Bill Sienkiewicz about it on Twitter, kind of get some tips from him, which, not gonna lie, pretty freaking cool to be able to hit up one of the all-time greats and just be like, hey man, so I was wondering if you could give me some pointers. I mean, I don't know Bill. I've been around him a number of times, but I've never actually mustered up the courage to go say hello, because he's just always kind of seemed busy. But everything I know about him, he's a pretty approachable guy, very down to earth. Which, you know, if you look at his work, you might not assume that, because it tends to kind of veer very much into like the fine art world. And, you know, that world definitely has kind of a reputation, personality-wise. But, yeah, he seems like a cool guy. Yes, at least there are no bar scenes on page 9. And honestly, I mean, you know, if that bar scene just were kind of lit differently, it would still be a chore. There's no two ways about that, but it wouldn't have been quite as much of a chore as the one that I ended up. I don't know. I know what I mean in my head. I feel like I'm not doing a great job of explaining it. You know what? We're even gonna... feeling a little crazy today. You want to get nuts? Let's get nuts! George Costanza for the uninitiated. Sometimes I look at my Twitch, like, because you know it shows how long I've been on up in the corner of my Twitch stuff, and I'm like, man, I've already been on for like an hour, and then I realize I start the stream with like 10 minutes prior, so that people have time to get in. Evil Ben, good to see you. Thanks so much for coming. There we go. I'm gonna try to kind of eyeball. There we go. Should have enough juice left to fill in her eyebrows. Excuse me. There we go. And you know what? Kind of like what I was saying about getting nuts. I think I'm gonna actually ink her irises with my brush today too. Especially at this size, I do think inking them with a brush probably does look better than the Tech Pen. So I would like to get a little bit more proficient at that. You know, the eyes are the window to the soul and everything, so you kind of want a more lively line than just kind of like a you know, dead weight micron line. And truthfully, even just using like the nib pen, you can probably get pretty nice. I mean, I know you can get a nice effect because that's what mangaka do it with. And Lord knows they sure know how to render out some eyes. There we go, there's one. There's another. I'm going to kind of take a little boil on this line. I'm going to try and smooth out just a smidge. There we go. So that pretty much does it for the brushwork. Gonna grab one of my which manga artist would I love to watch stream? That's a good question. A number of them have already been on Manben, which is kind of the same thing. I'd probably want fairly disparate styles. You know, not just like three guys who all or women, you know, who all draw kind of similarly. And by that I mean, if you take it to like American comics, it'd be like the original Image founders. They all draw uniquely, but it's all kind of a similar aesthetic. You know, between Liefeld, McFarlane, Jim Lee, Larson, etc. I mean, I think Toriyama would have to be number one. Just because I'm such a huge fan. And, like, it wouldn't even need to be Dragon Ball. Like, I'd be happy. I mean, like, he's so much more than just Dragon Ball. As great as Dragon Ball, like, I literally have all of Dragon Ball to the left of me twice. I've got the black and white, and I've got the complete set of full colors from Japan, both on my bookshelf. But yeah, I think Toriyama would be on there. Ito's in an episode of Manben, so I've kind of already seen that. Maybe some of the women from Clamp, just because that's such a distinct style, and I think it'd be really cool to see how that comes together. And maybe Otomo, Katsuhiro Otomo. I would say Urasawa, but I mean he hosts Manben, so you get to see him work a lot. And then lastly, we ink the frame, because it kind of, not only is it helpful compositionally, but also makes for a literal nice framing device. And finally, we sign it. So there is our finished Karen warm-up. Not too shabby. I think that looks pretty good. Thank you, Mugen. Gonna take a second to get a drink of water, kind of reorganize my studio space a little bit before we get started on. Oh, actually, you know what I am gonna go do real quick? I'm gonna go run to the bathroom and add some water to my dip pen ink, because I think one of the issues is maybe it's a little bit too thick. So I'm gonna go do that real quick. That'll literally take me just a minute. So I will be right back in 2 shakes of a dog's tail.